At the beginning of this lecture, I would like to greet everyone listening and participating. I would also like to thank National and University Library in Zagreb for keeping this conference and coordinating it live via internet connection during COVID-19 pandemic and partial or full lockdown in many European and world countries. Today I will talk about research activities in the pandemic era and new technologies, their limits and potentials. In short terms, I will focus on nature of research and education in conditions of crisis with one main questions: what are positive and what are negative sides of studying heritage and art in the time of crisis? From the late 2019 onwards, all the way till today, Croatia and its capital have gone through a series of health, social, natural and financial crises. COVID-19 pandemic with social restrictions and earthquake were two major of those. As it seems, for now, months and maybe even years ahead will be marked by further health, social and economic turbulences. In such situations, encouraged by so-called new social relations and breakthrough of new technologies, the face of contemporary research and educational methodology is almost radically changing. New ways of teaching and learning are taking mainstream place at a global level. Faced with such scenarios, many researchers are asking themselves, what will be happening in the upcoming years? What will future of research bring? What are positive and negative sides effects of the upcoming changes? And finally, what is the future of our professions? Latter questions, as I will try to shortly elaborate in the next few slides, are not just concerning our everyday habits. In fact, they are including re-examination of whole human being, our culture and our identities. With the expansion of COVID-19 pandemic and furthermore with Zagreb earthquake, there were more and more museums, libraries and institutions started shifting towards online type of work. During the first half of 2020, many educational, cultural and scientific events were cancelled or postponed. But as the situation didn't get better, over the course of the year many more events were held online. In smaller number of cases, such as the example with this photo, events were adjusted for new health conditions. Wearing mask and keeping distance in these cases was required in order to participate, and social norms were drastically changed and now included 1.5 to 2 meters distance between visitors. Disinfection or hand sanitizing at entrances an important role of mobile applications, since staff couldn't be engaged in guided tours or any other more socially direct form. New perspectives of researching and learning now include widespread methods like digitized working materials from libraries, museums and archives, web conferencing and live streaming, now very popular on universities, video calling, often used for interviews and in some forms of research questioning, digital studying, represented in elementary and high schools during the worst stages of the pandemic, work from home, and many other forms of virtual events that combine all the above mentioned perspectives. All of these perspectives are accessible via internet clouds and various devices like laptop, tablets, and smartphones. Also, very popular forms of learning and researching now include social networks like Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. However, all of these forms usually show high lack of focus, lack of three-dimensionality, and various internet distractions. Absence of teamwork and direct social contact results in loneliness, and therefore final results are often worse than expected. Now, in the main part of this exposure, I will talk about potentially good and bad sides of mentioned new perspectives and new technologies in the fields of education and science. First of all, let's talk about good sides that have positive effects. Previously closed or inaccessible collections are now being opened to the public and to researchers who may not be able to make direct contact with specific historical material. In this way, many cultural and scientific institutions such as libraries, museums, archives, and various institutes are meeting user needs in a lot more open and practical way, especially when it comes to sources that are not yet published or researched at all. Open access resources are formed and anyone interested get in touch with material in need or participate in some kind of a research. New forms of interactions provide easier collaboration with researchers all around the world, especially in the time of various types of crisis such as this. As a part of digitizing collections, institutions often provide multilingual materials which generate international attention and consequently international collaboration. Cultural, scientific and educational achievements therefore become public good in a true sense of the word. This way, community serving is fulfilled in line with aspirations of so-called modern world, and especially in line with contemporary democratic societies. Since researchers and other interested parties don't have to get in direct touch with some specific and important materials, cultural heritage is much better protected and remains exposed only when really needed. Finally, virtual services transform society according to the principles of transparent and open business, which minimize bad social habits and negative selections in some research fields. Accordingly, online interaction leads to mass positive impact and ensures lasting positive value on human life in general. Now, let's expose some potentially bad sides of new technologies and online interactions, especially regarding to museums, archives, and libraries. During exhibitioning or presentation of different research materials or results, guided tours and direct social contact between researchers and eventual visitors or interested parties are limited, or in severe social and health crises even prohibited. Openings or any other forms of social gatherings are also restricted or limited. Very few people, for example, can attend some conference or exhibition in case of strict health limitations. Therefore, such events have a lack of any longer social interaction, if it includes any social interaction at all. Lack of direct access results in partial insight and partial reception of specific work, since researchers most often can't adequately visualize or conceive topics of their professional interests. Many categories of digitized materials can also have bad influence on privacy issues, which are usually regulated by European and state laws. Sometimes compromised privacy is even a minor problem in comparison to intellectual property, because many researched and digitized materials are often burdened with different copyrights of past owners or their legal successors. In many countries, funding problems also occurs. In these situations, many relevant documents can't be digitized at all, mainly because of infrastructural and financial issues. Mentioned phenomenon is closely related to double preservation costs. Most people don't even count the cost of digitized works and their maintenance, but keeping storage of such material with specific softwares also takes money. Finally, many people, including researchers in developed and undeveloped countries, don't have access to published materials, mostly because of bad maintenance or lack of any internet infrastructure. Bad sides of new technologies and new perspectives in education, science and culture leads us to many psychological and social challenges for contemporary humans. Many of these problems are poorly researched since it's been only a year from COVID-19 pandemic outbreak. Negative phenomena include social isolation, which leads to severe health and mental problems. Negative media attention, which includes constant negative and pessimistic coverage of certain social issues, often without any optimistic connotations. In such context, fake news or manipulative interpretations also present part of the problem, not to mention widespread of various lockdown struggles and mental health crises that don't get adequate media attention, or at least not yet. All above mentioned problems lead to identity crisis of individual and of society in general. In such terms, many collective trauma get formed, and in that way, bad news and suspense take prominent place in our post-COVID future. In conclusion, contemporary researcher could easily ask himself where the future social relations and new technologies lead us. The answer is of course not clear, although one could easily make a guess. It leads us towards new crises and challenges, but also new opportunities. That will be all. Thank you very much.